Hello, and welcome back to the NoScore Review Show. I'm your host, Nick Green. Today, I'm joined by Matt Schmidt. Matt, welcome back to the NoScore Review Show.
Thanks for having me again.
You know what? You're welcome.
Seems like I'm practically a co-host with you at this point.
Practically. We'll have to get my people to talk to your people about budgeting and deals.
Yeah, we'll get
and
the contract all
contracts.
sorted out.
Yeah, exactly. Always a pleasure to have you on the show.
Always a pleasure to be here.
Without further ado, we are reviewing Avatar: The Way of Water, James Cameron's new big budget blockbuster, and it is a big budget, a whopping like $350 million sunk into this behemoth of a film. And me and Matt are pretty excited, I think, to talk about it.
Yes.
We got to go see it together in the theater.
Indeed.
In IMAX 3D.
Glorious IMAX 3D.
Yeah.
Prime seats, I might add.
Yeah.
As well.
Like, honestly, probably couldn't have been much better, I would say.
No.
Ticket fiasco aside. We'll leave that
we'll get into that.
Yeah.
Maybe.
But we're going to get into our general thoughts. This will be no spoiler territory. So rest assured, you won't have any plot details spoiled or anything. We'll get into that once we get into the highlights and lowlights and whatnot. Matt, let's kick things off. What do you think?
It's good.
It's a good movie.
It's good.
Yeah.
I liked it.
I loved it. It was everything I wanted and more from this sequel.
Yeah, I'd say so.
Like I said in my Letterboxd review, I was very skeptical. I was among the skeptical masses. Wasn't really sure why this was being made, especially like 13 years later. But I was happy to be surprised. My expectations were, I wouldn't say low, because I was very excited to see this once we got the trailer earlier this year. So yeah, I would say I had, like, I don't even know if I would consider it high expectations, but I was just excited, I guess.
Yeah.
There wasn't really anything for me to expect because of the way the first movie kind of ended. It was kind of like uncharted territory. We didn't really know where it was going to go. Even like with the trailer, I guess the only thing we really got from the trailer was like the fact that it'll have more water in it, I guess.
Yeah.
That's
kind of the whole shtick.
Exactly. Yeah. What were you feeling going into this film?
I mean, I had high expectations, but I also had tempered expectations at the same time. Like I wasn't going into this expecting to see like a thematically dense character drama. I wasn't expecting to like feel a lot of human emotion and connection and revelations about existence. And I was in there for big blue people doing cool things and seeing cool underwater stuff and see explosions and action and spectacle, and that's what I got. And by like, my expectations were just on the overall vibe. I wasn't expecting anything specific from it. I think that's the way that most people are probably going in as well, because there's no way for anybody to really know the directions that this movie will go from the trailers alone, because they leave a lot out.
They do, actually, yeah.
A lot of stuff that comes up very early on in the movie, there was no hints of it at all in the trailer. So you're kind of like, oh, okay, I guess. It kind of reminded me of when Blade Runner 2049 came out, and they had all these trailers out that were just sort of mood pieces and showing you what it's going to be like. You have no idea about who the characters are. And then within like the first 10 minutes of the movie, it is revealed that the main character, Ryan Gosling, spoilers coming in here if you haven't already seen it.
2049.
He's a replicant, and they didn't say that at all in the trailer. So you're just like, oh, okay, this is the kind of movie that we're in for now.
Yeah.
And they did very much the same kind of thing with Avatar, and we'll get into the spoilery specific stuff later.
Yeah, totally.
But
I think if you were going into this uh with expectations of like wanting James Cameron to reinvent the wheel and like I would say probably divert from his usual filmmaking style. Like he doesn't do like in-depth character drama really. Like he's maybe done
he
like
never
one
has.
or two. Yeah, like so you're going there for big spectacle, big blockbuster action, right? It's a popcorn movie. So
Yeah,
uh like as long as you're going in for like a thrill ride, um then I think you'll be pleasantly surprised.
yeah. I
Um
think James Cameron has always been a technical filmmaker. He's been
mhm,
about the moving parts and the functionality of films. He's never been a guy that's going to deep dive into, scripts and screenplays. It's never been his strong point,
yeah.
really.
He's more into literal deep diving to the
Yeah,
Mariana Trench.
he's a visual storyteller, and he likes to come up with new ways of telling his stories with the technical aspects, and
Hmm.
he sees technical limitations and he says, I'm going to change that. And with
Hmm.
every movie that he makes, all the way back to like The Abyss and Aliens through to T2
Hmm.
and then Titanic and Avatar, every time he makes a movie, he changes the way that every movie after is made. And
Yeah.
that is very much the case with Avatar 2. And I think we will see the, what impact this is going to have on the rest of movies very soon,
Yeah.
especially now that Avatar is owned by Disney, and
Yeah.
what other
Totally.
big potentially underwater Disney thing is going to be coming in this, like, in the near future. We're going to get a Namor movie at some point, and
Yeah.
likely they're going to use the same kind of underwater mocap techniques that they used in Avatar. So we're going to see that sort of
If we're lucky.
branch out. If we're lucky,
Yeah.
we'll see.
It'll depend on how much the Marvel machine is just gonna churn stuff out still. That's one of
Yeah,
the things
but I
I'm
mean,
most interested in with this ripple effect is like I really hope Marvel kind of gets shaken to the core a little bit and be like, oh, we gotta like maybe step up our game a little bit because
yeah,
it's really starting with the end of phase 4 after the end of this year. It's starting to not cut it with the level of quality they're putting out, I would say, both in story and in like visual effects. It's a lot of half-baked looking stuff, and this
yeah,
movie is just like a completely different category, completely different level.
yeah. It's just absolutely polished from top to
Hmm.
bottom,
Yeah.
squeaky, shiny, clean.
Yeah.
It's just so good.
Yeah. Um, cool. Well, I think that about covers our general thoughts.
Yeah,
So from here on out, we're going to do spoiler territory. So if you do not want to have anything spoiled for you in terms of plot details or just anything at all, if you don't want to know a thing about this film and just want to go in blind, then this is your out. Um, come back and hear our thoughts afterward after you have seen the movie. But if you don't care about spoilers, then stick around. So yeah, we're gonna get into some highlights and lowlights. I think it's probably gonna be mostly highlights. This whole review.
probably.
Um, but yeah, what were some highlights immediately coming to mind for you,
I
Matt?
mean, just the visuals. Easy
Yeah,
is like
the highlight.
it is the highlight. It's what this movie is. It's essentially an animated film, but it looks live action.
Hmm.
Like they're the the subtleties in facial expressions and like just in the lips alone on these characters are
Yeah,
so detailed and so true to life. It goes all the way through in my opinion, through the uncanny valley. Like
yeah,
these look like real living, breathing creatures that James
hmm,
Cameron filmed with an actual camera.
yeah,
It
absolutely.
it is stunning, and
Hmm.
I cannot get over the look of this movie enough. There's nothing else like it. This is the gold standard for CG.
Hmm.
and nothing even comes close.
Yeah. I was like surprised at how well the first Avatar held up,
Yeah.
especially when we got to see it in theaters. It
To be
like
fair, that was also remastered.
yes, yeah, giving the benefit of the doubt there. Like that was a remaster version. So I mean I still think because I did watch it like at home during the pandemic, and from what I remember of that, like it held up perfectly well. But that remaster really just elevated it for sure.
Oh yeah.
So the effects were already like amazing to begin with, and like Cameron just was able to build off of that and go even deeper with the detail and the like the lighting effects, like the fire reflecting off their faces every time like they were like in the water or like coming out of the water and the water was like falling off their
Oh, the
faces and like
water. Oh
yeah, the
my god.
water.
The water.
The like marine life in this film alone, like I thought we were watching like nature
Yeah,
documentary at
we're
some
on
point.
planet Earth.
Yeah,
Or planet
exactly.
Pandora, I guess.
Yeah. Yeah,
Ugh.
there's not enough can be said about the effects in this film. All of the set pieces are phenomenally executed. Um, it's yeah, it's just a spectacle to behold. And that I think is the selling point for this film. Uh, it kind of like going more into low light territory, like the characters and plot are serviceable. Like they're good, I would say. Like it's but it's not groundbreaking or anything. So I think the story and the main theme of like family and the trials and tribulations of the family dynamic that they have now, because it's also focused more on Jake and Neytiri's kids now too.
Yeah,
Um,
I'd almost argue that Jake isn't even the protagonist
no,
in this.
no.
It's definitely, he's almost a supporting character at
Hmm.
this point.
Yeah, he very much like is the vehicle in like the first act of like bringing us back into this world of like
Yeah.
how things are now and what's going on with like both his family and on Pandora of the re-invasion of the Earthlings, I guess you could call them. Um, and then once we get to the like water tribe area, like well even like beforehand, like we start getting introduced to his kids and everything, right? But then once we get to the water tribe, it's very much focused on the kids,
Yeah.
um, both from Jake's family and from the water tribe we meet as well. um, but yeah, like the story is good. I think it had a lot of heart for being as like simple and derivative as it is, like if you want to kind of jab it a little. But
Yeah, like it had soul to it.
yeah,
It wasn't
yeah,
just like a husk of a corporate amalgamation like
yep,
so many other blockbuster franchise movies is, they are
hmm,
right now. And
yeah. They
yeah, it's good.
they got me a couple times in that last act. Like I was like very much on the verge of shedding some tears. So like any movie that can do that, I think is
Yeah.
a good one in my book. So
And there were some people around us in the cinema that were furiously sobbing
yeah,
and
like
like
aggressively.
trying to, like, that sputtering point when you're trying to catch your breath but you keep
Yeah,
crying, you're like
constantly. Yeah,
like the
like
person in
ugly crying, man.
yeah, like they were ugly crying, they had tissues out, they were
Hmm.
sniffling. There was a pretty engaged audience
Yeah,
that we had for sure.
absolutely. What else? The yeah, I like the set pieces were so freaking cool. Like that first
Oh,
train sequence.
the train sequence was
Um,
a great, just like initial action scene to get
Totally.
you into it. Like when the train gets derailed,
Hmm. Yeah.
and even just then, I'm like, I don't think I've ever seen anything in a Marvel movie or in Star Wars that has looked that good.
Yeah.
As far as like a big disaster or explosion goes,
The
it was just whoa.
the I guess the spaceships that come back to Pandora landing and like decimating
Oh,
everything around them,
yeah.
and then like the doors lowering too with the mech guys coming
And
out.
the
That
you see the
looked
heat waves
amazing.
through the
Yeah.
atmosphere as well.
Yeah.
You can
It
really
it looks so
feel like
good.
how hot that must have been.
Hmm. Yeah.
Oh, yeah, just so good.
Yeah. There's really I'm trying to think of like I think there were like it kind of comes back to the like story and character of it all. Like they do a bit of not not like leaps because like it's believable in a sense, but they do a lot of exposition in the first act of like justifying some of the characters' returns, like what's his name, Quaritch, the like sergeant guy from the first film, Stephen Lang's character,
Yeah,
because he very much dies in the first film. So they have to do a bit of explanation to explain how he's back. But like once they got through that, like I was on board. And he's just such a he was such a like charismatic and compelling character. You love to hate him and watch him
yeah.
on screen. So
He's such a
like I
great villain.
actually, yeah, totally. I think it was actually a smart move um to bring him back, and also not to like kill him. Like I think he served his purpose in this film, and like killing him off would have been fine, honestly, in my opinion. But uh, bringing him back for future films, at least one more probably,
Yeah,
um, will be very cool to see. Just alone from getting more Stephen Lang, but then also the dynamic that's created through the actions of the characters towards the end, like Spider saving him,
yeah.
might have pretty dire consequences for
Oh,
the
for
family
sure.
dynamic. So,
Hmm.
um, but yeah, the exposition, it was exposition heavy in the first act, not just from like Quaritch's origins and whatnot, but also Jake just kind of like catching you up on what the Navi tribe is doing in the, or
Yeah,
like the forest tribe and whatnot.
there was quite a bit of voiceover
Yeah,
in the first act, but you know what? That the first Avatar was like that too, and
yeah, it
it
felt very much
never,
in line with.
yeah, it never felt like it was beating you over the head. And
Mhm.
even the exposition with Korich, it also felt natural within the context of the story
Yeah,
that it's delivered, because they're like, oh, he's first waking up, he's confused, doesn't know what's happening.
totally.
Here we play a pre-recorded briefing
Hmm.
um, to this person, and it's all stuff that you would think would actually happen
Yep.
within the universe. It's not like they're just finding an excuse to dump
Yeah,
information at you, because the character is also learning the information. It's not like
exactly.
they're telling the character something they already know just so the
Yeah.
audience can hear it,
Hmm.
which is,
Or the
I
vice
think,
versa as well too, right?
or
Like
vice
something
versa.
that, yeah, that's arguably probably worse.
Yeah, I think
um
so. Like, oh, here a character is finding something out that we already know.
yeah,
That's like
well,
as
and
if
it's
the,
also interesting, like it's intriguing to the audience too at first, right? Like, oh, Quaritch is back.
yeah,
Okay,
because I'm
interesting.
sure a lot of people probably in the beginning, he might come out and they won't initially realize
Remember.
who he is,
Yeah, yeah, because
because
not
of course
everyone's gonna
he's an
be
avatar as well. So
right, that too.
you have to sort of see the features, and I picked up on it right away, and I could
Yeah,
also recognize his voice. So I was
yeah.
like, oh shit.
Hmm.
And that's something, like we talked about previously, they didn't reveal in the trailer. Like, we knew
No,
Stephen Lang was going to be in the movie, but just expected, oh, maybe it's a flashback, maybe it's something else. But he
I
is
didn't
the
even know.
primary antagonist of the movie, and he
Yeah,
comes back as an avatar. And holy shit.
yeah, he like wrecks house. He's like even more unreal because like he was just like kind of following orders, and he had that kind of disdain for the Navi in the first film, but like now he's on a revenge warpath. So like
Yeah.
he's even more deadly
And
this
before
time.
they were trying to just like get them to move out of the trees so they could get the stuff. But now they're like, we are here to kill everyone so that we can live here instead.
Yeah. They aren't moving, we're gonna just kill them where they stand. Um yeah, and like this also plays in kind of to how the story, because there are good things about the story and stuff too. Like it's a way more character focused film, which I
Hmm.
appreciated. Um, but like Quaritch's motivations alone were way more uh personal this time around, right? Like it wasn't just like, oh, screw the Navi in the first film, right? Like it's like, no, Jake Sully, I'm coming for you and your family. And
Yeah,
even more so now with that line towards the end of the film of like, I will kill your entire family.
yeah, I like
Um,
that. And then Jake's just like, well, let's
all
get it
right,
done
let's
then.
do it. Yeah. Yeah. Um yeah, I really appreciated the tighter focus um this time around, and I
Yeah,
think focusing on his family worked quite well.
yeah. And I
It gave
really
us.
liked, honestly, the middle portion of the movie,
Mhm,
where I'm sure a lot of people will probably, like, I know some of the people that we went with, like Jake, they thought that the middle portion of the movie was a little slow and
right,
dragged a bit. But that was almost my favorite part of just being able to, it was almost a hangout movie for a
yeah.
good chunk of it, because you're just watching Jake and his family adapt to the new life in this new tribe, and they get to swim around and you get to see all of the cool underwater stuff, which is like just a showcase
We're
of
experiencing this new
what it
world
all
with
is.
these characters, right? So, like,
Exactly. And all of the scenes had time to breathe. Like it wasn't like Black Adam, which is like now my my poster child for everything bad about how to make a movie. Where in that movie it was just like flying from scene to scene to scene to scene. But this, you get to sit with the characters and it just flows nicely,
there's
and
literally
it's
a
great.
scene of one of the kids just, like, staring at sand, and I was, like, eating it up, man.
I
I'm like,
was
"This
in
is
that too.
fucking gorgeous." Like,
Yeah.
looks so good. Yeah, it was like a great pace in my opinion. Like I would say the first act is probably the weakest of it all,
Yeah.
and only because of all that exposition. Um, but yeah, the second act was amazing, and the introduction to this new part of Pandora really did a lot of the heavy lifting.
Yeah.
Um, so yeah, but then that final act, man,
Oh my
that's where
gosh.
shit goes down. That
Yeah.
was like one of, if not like the best action. Like it's hard for me to compare the action sequences in Way of Water to something like Everything Everywhere, because they're like, I think they're a little too different to try and compare to each
Yeah.
other. Like this one's just like way more grandiose and like war, right? Whereas Everything Everywhere is a little more like close combat, like martial arts type fight choreography and whatnot, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but man, that last act of like the uh the water tribe attacking the ship, but then also after all that is over, then we get the family trying to escape the ship as well. That was like
Yeah.
that was hard. It was hard to breathe in that.
And also, you have the scene before where the kids are trying to escape from the people hunting, like the whale.
Yeah,
So
yeah. That whole lead up to
yeah,
the third
there's like
act.
three huge action set pieces that are just linked one after another that
Yeah,
flow very well together.
hmm
And it just, yeah, it's a whole hour of just nonstop incredible action, but there are still like moments of respite in the middle of it, so you get to have like a little bit of a lull, and then
hmm
something big will happen again.
yep,
And it's just such a good, like a great flow,
totally,
and build up and pay off and build up and pay off.
yeah.
Oh, and that arm scene,
Oh God, man, the
that
audience. I
was
can still
brutal.
hear
The
the
audience
audience.
was like, ah.
Yeah. Oh man, that was so good. So good. What else? I think like music wasn't like that memorable. The score, I think it very much was carried over from the first film in terms of themes and like the familiar sound.
Yeah,
Um but nothing too notable in
it
my
was very much
opinion.
accompanying the scenes.
Yeah.
uh,
Absolutely.
and nothing to really stand out.
Yeah. Um, the acting was great. Like everyone came to play, like and you could like see it on screen too, thanks to the stunning VFX. Like Zoe Saldana's performance in particular was amazing, and the whole scene with their oldest son, like
Mm,
in the very end too, like that was
that
just
was
heart wrenching.
the ugly cry scene.
Yeah, yeah,
There was a lot of
um,
moms in the audience that
yeah,
were really taking that one hard.
yeah. Well, and understandably so. Um,
Hmm.
the other thing too, like because we had never met any of these uh kids before, um like we did lose one, and like we might have lost another, like that it was kind of unknown stakes, and I even thought like one of the parents was going to die too, right? Like
Yeah, they really made it like feel like there was danger and there were
yeah,
real stakes.
totally, because we didn't know what was going to happen with these characters, right? Like
Mhm.
it's not like it's not like these are prequels to something or like spin-offs or whatever, right? It's like completely all uncharted territory. So
Yeah, there didn't feel like there was any plot armor
yeah.
for the most part. I think in the very end, it really didn't feel like there was much of a challenge when Jake and Stephen Lang were fighting, and when Jake and uh, Neytiri were just like bulldozing through all of the other people in the ship. It was very
Right.
much just a like. It was like watching John Wick, where
Yeah,
he
I was
just
just gonna
absolutely
say
just
that.
murders
Yeah.
everybody with no resistance at all.
Well, and
Um,
like leading up to that part too, it's like, oh, Jake and Neytiri in particular is coming to help on
oh
that
yeah,
ships. Like she's on a fucking blood path, man.
and when she took out like the first guy with the arrow through, I don't even remember exactly what it was, but
Yeah,
there
she
that
like
was
took
like
out a human and then she like picks up her arrow and then relaunches it with a human on it.
yes,
Yeah.
yes, wild stuff. And there were people like whistling in the
Oh yeah.
audience, and during
Yeah.
that last scene, people were getting pretty into it.
Hmm.
It took a little while for people to settle in, but when they did, it was like everybody was on the edge of their seat.
Yeah, man. Yeah, it was a phenomenal third act. And I'm actually glad that they didn't kill either of the parents. I was hoping to get a little bit more out of them in like the next film.
Yeah.
So I'm glad we kept both of them around. Um cool. I think we've covered that pretty well. There's really not many lowlights, if I'm being honest.
No.
Um
Honestly,
the
I could almost say that I wish it was longer, just so that we got a little bit more time with Jake and Natiri, because I feel
right.
like Natiri in particular, she was very she had a very small part
Hmm.
in this movie because so much of the emphasis was on the kids.
Yeah.
So I would have liked to see a little bit more from her, but I think it's also just leaving more for her character in future installments,
Yeah.
and building up the children a little bit more
Hmm.
because Neytiri got so much screen time in the previous
Yeah.
film.
Totally. I think I would love to see more of the parent child dynamics with both Jake and Neytiri, because like I think most of the time, especially in Jake's case, um, that like anytime we got him talking with his kids, it was usually him yelling at his kids because they got in trouble, right?
Yeah,
So I would love to just develop those uh, relationships a little bit more in future installments, hopefully, especially now that we've established a great foundation for the kids, who were all great. Uh, yeah. Uh, Creator goal. I
he
think
did it.
Cameron, he did
He
it,
nailed it.
ladies and
He did
gentlemen.
it.
He knocked it out of the park. James Cameron does not give a shit what anyone thinks. He's going to make his almost $400 million blue person film, and you're going to go watch it in theaters. God damn it.
Yeah. He
Um,
makes what he wants to see.
yeah.
And he wanted to see some crazy underwater stuff.
Yeah.
and he did it. He's changed the game
Hmm.
again. You
Yep.
know, how many times in his career now has he been the first person to do something? Like
Yeah.
this is like the fifth time.
Yeah. Hmm.
It's
Yeah. He
crazy.
he always wants to push the envelope for the filmmaking industry. So I'm very thankful we have him as a filmmaker around
And as
to,
a fellow Canadian as well.
and as a fellow Canadian, exactly. Um, yeah, uh, he bloody well did it again, folks. Uh, Viewing experience, I would say optimal was our experience. IMAX 3D for sure.
Yeah,
Um, but like, see it in a theater. Like, that's pretty much the bare minimum, I would say. Uh,
yeah.
it's just going to be such a captivating and immersive experience. I I noticed, this is more of a tangent than anything, but I was looking because I think I do want to go see it at least once more in theaters if I have the chance.
Yeah, I
Um,
probably will too.
and they so first of all they're doing a James Cameron is doing a high frame rate release as well in
Ooh,
48 frames, and I am personally someone who, I don't know how like much experience I have had with like higher frame rate type film and television, but I don't think I've ever really notably noticed or complained about it. Like with like the first Hobbit film, I don't think I ever really had any sort of issue because I think that was filmed in like 60 frames
hmm.
or something.
When I saw the first Hobbit, it was in normal 24, and then I saw
Mm.
the second two, and they were in 48.
Oh, okay.
And I found it very jarring and gross.
Okay.
But also, the movies were just bad. So,
Right. That's, yeah, that
you know,
doesn't help. And the whole idea, I think, with the higher frame rate is to make it more immersive, right? Like it to make it feel like you're actually there
yeah,
and to have it less cinematic feeling. Um, which might sound like a weird thing to not want your movie to feel, but um, I think I'd like to give it a shot at least.
yeah. I hope that it's not 48, though. I hope they do it in at least make it like 60,
Right.
because 48 is such an odd number that doesn't appear anywhere else. But at least
Hmm.
with 60, it gives that sense of like video games, at least, that a lot of people will be familiar
Yeah.
with the feel of, and a lot of YouTube videos that are shot at 60 FPS. But 48 is just such a weird in between number that
Hmm.
it feels off because there's literally nowhere else that we watch 48 frame
Yeah.
video.
Yeah. That's true. Um, yeah, so I might go check that out. But also, I noticed that so one of the theaters in our city just opened up a 4DX theater, and they're showing Way of Water there, and it's like it's 4DX baby, so it's like it's gonna splash water in your face and shit. So I'm a little tempted to go see it in that,
Where
if
is
I'm being
that?
honest. It's at the Metrotown Theater.
Really?
Yeah,
That's wild. Okay.
yeah,
Yeah, I think we got to do that.
yeah, yeah. It
And it'll just smell like fish the whole time too.
come out of the theater sopping wet.
Yeah,
That was amazing.
leave your phones at home, kids.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Yeah, there's just a Cineplex employee with a bucket of water. Anytime someone brings out their phone, they just throw it at you.
That's what they should do just at any
They should
movie,
do
I
that,
think.
regardless of if you have a 4DX theater or not. Just like that,
Yeah,
that'll really buckle down on the poor behavior.
just rig a bucket of water above every seat, and
Yeah,
if they pull out their phone, then you dump
or
it on them.
do trap doors underneath every
Oh,
theater seat, and then they just fall down. These
I
are
like
great
it.
ideas.
I like it. Cineplex, are you listening?
Yeah.
Maybe you should fix your website first, though, before you start doing all this
Fix
stuff.
your ticket refund system first.
God,
Um all right. Yeah, I think go see this in a theater for sure. Um it's probably going to be playing everywhere, like even in rural markets. So
it'll be
uh
playing everywhere for a long time.
yeah,
Top
exactly.
Gun Maverick, I think, is still in theaters.
Yeah. Well, it just
So
came back to theaters, yeah. Um yeah. Okay. One pro and one con from you, Matthew, for The Way of Water.
Pro is the underwater mocap. Just so brilliant, feels so real and authentic. Loved it. It was just fantastic. Con, maybe I would have liked the music to be a little bit more distinct and memorable and have
That's a good
that
one.
play into some, you know, play into some otherwise normal moments that could have been made more special with, you know, give us something iconic. Like, there's no reason why Avatar shouldn't have its own equivalent to Duel of the Fates or something
Totally.
like that.
Yeah, we
Like, give
don't get
us,
enough like iconic scores nowadays that aren't
yeah,
associated with like Marvel or Star Wars, right? Like
yeah,
I
like give us some good motifs for characters, with
totally.
memorable little arrangements. I think that could blend itself so nicely to movies like Avatar, where
Totally.
you're
And
gonna
these different
revisit it
environments
over.
too, right?
Yeah.
Like jungle and like
Hmm.
ocean and I think there like the other tribes they visited in the first film too, like there would be different themes you could do with those locations too because I'm sure we're going to see them again.
Yep, we will. I'm
Um
sure we'll see others as well. Like, we've seen such a small piece of Pandora. We don't even
yeah.
know what else is out there yet.
Mhm. Totally. Cool. Yeah, my pro I think would probably be the um I'd say the performances. The performances really shined through, and were able to shine through. I felt things in this film. I was able to feel emotion, and it wasn't just because I heard a girl crying like 3 seats down from me. Um, and I think like the con, I would probably just say like the what little uh, writing leaps they kind of had to bend over backwards a little bit to justify. Like in a perfect world, we wouldn't have to do like that much exposition and whatnot. But like even with that being a con, it's still I think they executed it very well. So things to improve upon in the future, anyway.
Yeah.
Um, and I think yeah, we it's pretty safe to say we would recommend this to pretty much anybody and everybody. I mean, if you
Oh, yeah.
didn't like the first film, like if you hated the first film, I guess you probably would hate this one too.
Yeah, it's more of the same,
Yeah,
really.
yeah. Um, but if you like big action spectacle, big original, like I understand it's not like the most revolutionary story and whatnot, but like it's very distinct in this uh like landscape that we have nowadays of Marvel and Star Wars and like rehashing all of these old IPs that are recognizable, right? Like it's a new thing and it's its own thing, which is really
Yeah.
really refreshing. So if you like big original blockbusters, go check it out.
Yeah.
And that is about it. This will be kind of a shorter review. Nothing but praise from me and
Yeah.
Matt.
Nothing bad I have to say about it.
Exactly. So yeah, go to your nearest 4DX theater and go get some water splashed on your face. Uh, Matt, thank you so much for joining me this episode. Where can the people find you?
You can find me on Letterboxd. You can either search my name or you can search up Wisdom Nugget, and I will be there. There, my link to Instagram on my Letterboxd as well, so you can find me there. Although I don't use that much. Yeah.
Cool. Any recommendations or anything?
Recommendations. I went and saw a press screening for Babylon a little while back, and I
Mm,
can finally talk about it now because the embargo's gone. I will
exciting.
say, when that reaches theaters next week, go see it. If you're a
Nice.
fan of Chazelle, doesn't matter because it is nothing like his other films. Uh, expect the unexpected, and I guarantee you, whatever you think you're going to get from this movie, you're going to get more.
Wow. What an endorsement. December 23rd, I believe that
I believe
goes
so.
mass release. Yeah. Yeah,
And what
I'm
about
really
you,
excited.
Nick? where can the people find you?
Oh, thank you so much, Matt. The people can find me anywhere on the interwebs at NoScore or at NoScore Reviews, Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, my YouTube channel, where you might be watching this. This show is also available on all of your favorite podcasting services, Apple Music, is that what it's called? Apple
Yep.
Podcasts, Google,
Apple
Amazon
Applecast.
Music. Um, and yeah, if you want to watch more reviews, I did a review with Matt on Andor, the latest Star Wars show. That is also phenomenal. And I also had Matt on for Pinocchio as well. Like he's practically a co-host. Everybody.
Just everywhere, and maybe we'll be back for Babylon. Who
Yeah,
knows?
exactly. Yeah. So those were the latest review shows I did. And then if you're into video game Let's Play content, I've got God of War Ragnarok episodes coming out on my YouTube channel, No Score Plays. Um, that the main story in that game is now finished. That episode should come out on the 23rd, so same day as Babylon. Easy to remember. And yeah, thank you all so much for watching and listening. And Matt, thanks again for joining me. Until next time, we'll see you in the next video. Bye bye.
Bye.